And it's time for another Parenity brand startup journal, entry number 4 in the journal for the week ending July 12th, 2024. Parenity is a totally bootstrapped solopreneur brand being built from the ground up by me, your host, Robbie Bond, and we aim to bring serenity into the lives of exhausted parents everywhere. At Parenity, we envision a world where parents are less exhausted, better supported, more appreciated, and live in increased serenity. Here's today's talking points for the part of the startup journey that Parenity is currently at. If you want to read these points in more depth and better thought out, you can do so at the Parenity blog at parenity.com. Currently it's a blog. It will soon be an e-commerce site, but check it out there, and I will post the link in the video description as well. The basics are in place in our Shopify dev site. Starting to install Shopify apps where it makes sense. I'm going to try not using Klaviyo for my email marketing. We're a bit green on the NPN submission process, and when to push back and when to recognize your lack of leverage. Okay, so first of all, the basics are in place on the Shopify dev site. I've finally gotten around to tinkering in the dev Shopify site that I set up a little while ago, and I've selected all our fonts. Had fonts selected, the official fonts for the Parenity brand, but I could spend the time to get those specific fonts into Shopify. It's a little more work than it's worth. I've just gone ahead and selected fonts that fit the brand well, and that live within the selection of Google fonts, online fonts that exist in the theme we're using, which is version 15 of the Shopify Dawn theme. So saving myself a little time and headache there. One thing I did run into, though, was I didn't like the cart icon that the theme uses. I thought there would maybe be a setting for it, but there isn't. So had to go dig into the code a little bit there. And I know that's one thing I'm going to be struggling with a little bit is I have some development background, but when is that going to be worth the time? I need to keep things streamlined and moving quickly, not getting caught up in the small things like this. That one didn't end up, it took me a little longer than I thought, but it didn't end up chewing up a whole bunch of my time. So I don't regret doing that, but I'm gonna have to watch myself going forward, I think. Starting to install Shopify apps where it makes sense. I have a list of apps in my mind that I know from experience I don't want to be without in a Shopify store. There are also others that I've been thinking about for a while, and I've kind of decided they're probably a good idea for what I'm trying to do. So what I'm trying to do right now is, if any of these apps from these lists have a free tier or a free version for development stores, I'm installing them now so that they're there waiting for me when I'm ready to kind of tinker with them and set them up or just learn them. Some of them have a bit of a learning curve, and will take a little bit of time to get acquainted with them. And if any of them end up being losers, I'd rather know about that now than when I'm trying to launch the site. I'm going to try, this is kind of a big one, I'm going to try to not use Klaviyo for my email service provider, for marketing emails. I've used a number of different ESPs in the past, MailChimp being one. Did a little tiny bit of time on Bronto back in the day, and I've used Klaviyo. Klaviyo is pretty magical. Some of the reporting is not what it used to be due to recent, let's just say it, iOS. But it can be expensive too, especially for a small brand like mine. So I am going to try out the free ESP that Shopify provides. I believe it's just called Shopify Email, and I'm sure I'm going to run into some limitations, but does it matter at this point? I'm gonna see if it works to try to get by with that, and save myself a little scratch. Will I eventually end up going for a Klaviyo account? Maybe, but we'll see. Maybe not. Maybe email doesn't even end up moving the needle as much as one would expect. But gonna give that a go. I will keep you all posted on how that's working out for me. Health Canada product regulations. Our NPN application for our flagship product, Adulting Done Bright, is definitely underway. There's a bit of back and forth between the third party and I, the third party that's doing the NPN application process for us. There's been a few little tweaks to the Adulting Done Bright formula, but nothing that I'm uncomfortable with. For anyone interested, here's a little blurb We also have to submit the product name to Health Canada in order to get our NPN number. And as mentioned last time, number 1 on that list is Adulting Done Bright. That's what we hope. That's the name we hope to stick with. But for anyone interested in the NPN process, here's what they say. Here's what Health Canada says about the product naming. Brand name. This is the name used to distinguish or identify the product. You must use one brand name per product per paragraph of the regulations as set out in your product's terms of market authorization. Note, you may not use a brand name. Okay, here's the important part. You may not use a brand name that implies a recommended use that is different than what appears in the approved terms of market authorization for that product. Failing to do so could be considered a violation of Section 9 of the Food and Drugs Act. So basically, don't give it a name that describes it as doing something that it doesn't do. That's what I get from that. And I don't think our product name does that, but we'll see. Another thing I'll keep you guys posted on. A bit green on the NPN submission process. Yes, and this touches on what we just talked about. I just learned that the uses and dosage part of our product label is not dictated by Canada Health, as I was assuming. We, which is I and the third party who's assisting with the application, write it up and submit it to Health Canada for their approval. And then they let us know if it's going to fly or not. So that's a little bit more work, but I actually prefer it this way. Just so we can get specific with our customers in the best way to use the product. So a little more work, but a little added flexibility. And I've already done most of the work anyway in the first draft I've done of the product description for the website. Side note, the product description I wrote is very long. I really want customers to be informed of the uses of the product and what each ingredient does. But now I've got to wrestle with how that fits in the product page and stays readable, both by customers, potential customers, and search engine bots as well. We want as much of our text and wording to be seen by the search engines as possible. So we'll keep tinkering with that. And another thing we'll keep you posted on. And lastly, when to push back and when to recognize your lack of leverage. There are a few pieces of the manufacturing and regulatory processes that have caused slight adjustments in product contents and directions. Some of these have not worked in my favor, and some of the pieces I have not had my hand held on as much as I would have liked. But when you're relatively new to an industry and placing, fairly small orders compared to what these organizations are likely used to, when you run into these little hiccups, it's very important to consider: is this situation wrong enough that my small buying power is irrelevant to it? Meaning, is this wrong whether I'm placing a huge order or a tiny order? In some cases, right is right, and it's worth raising for that reason. Is this wrong enough to slow up production? I really want to get selling, and I really want to avoid any interruptions to the process right now. I really need to keep things moving. So there are things I'm willing to let go just to keep things, just to keep the ball rolling. Is it wrong enough to risk souring a business relationship even a little? Now, I don't think anything I would say, I'm pretty careful with my words. I don't think anything I would say would totally sour any deals or turn anyone against me, but it's still, the little things do matter. So if you can avoid kind of pissing any of your suppliers off and business partners, that's a good thing to do. Avoid pissing off the people that you're trying to work with. And lastly, is this something that I can course correct on later? Like, even if I'm not 100% happy, for example, with the price that I'm getting on the product right now, can I live with it? Is it okay enough to live with for now? And then perhaps in the future when I have more buying power, or I just, maybe I find another supplier who's got a better price. Would it be good enough to just tweak it as we go? So that's all stuff I'm thinking of as I kind of navigate the waters of dealing with the manufacturing process. So far, nothing big. These are all just small things that have come up, but I'm learning as I go and trying to pass the info on in case anyone out there is going through similar stuff. That's all I have for the journal this week. I'm going to try to keep them a little shorter and sweeter, just so they don't become work and just so they're a little easier to read and watch. Again, thanks for watching, everyone. Thank you for your interest. And if you made it this far, I super appreciate you hanging in there. Talk to you next time.